Hey guys, it's Joe, and in this video I'm going to show you how to use the tape delay plugin in Logic. This is a really cool and effective plugin at simulating vintage tape echo machines, and it's probably my most used delay plugin in Logic. It's really good for quickly and effectively thickening up a lead sound. It does it really well, and it's actually quite easy to use. So I'm just going to be demonstrating this on a quick arpeggio I've written into Logic that sounds like this normally without the delay. So it's quite quick and quite busy, but I just want to thicken it up and make it sound a bit bigger. So when you open up the tape delay, you're met with this window and you've got quite a few different things going on. We have the delay field, character, feedback, modulation and output. Now the output is pretty much the same for any plugin. So we've got the dry and the wet, the dry being the original signal, so our signal without any delay on it, and then the wet being the delay itself. So I tend to just have the dry on 100 and I bring the wet up to about 80, anywhere between 70 and 90 I quite like, just because then you get a solid amount of the delay coming through. Now in the delay field here, probably the most important area of it, because this will allow us to determine just how quickly or how slowly we want the delays to occur. And here we have tempo sync, so with this on, the delay will sync up to whatever tempo our project is set at. So in this case it's 66 BPM, so at the moment it will play a quarter note of 66 BPM. Whereas if I turn it off, it becomes free time. It's just in milliseconds. You can click and drag this dial to be whatever you want it to be. I don't really use that because in my songs I just want it to be pretty bang on time really. So I just use tempo sync and then I'll select the note from this drop down box here for what I want to do. Next we have the deviation here, and this means you can kind of just go either side of your note within a certain amount. So as you can see, it's dropped down to -9% here, which means it's going to come in 9% sooner than an eighth note essentially. So as you can see the milliseconds here, if I'm just dropping it down, they're going down as well. Whereas if we're going up, it's increasing it, making it a little bit longer. This can be quite good if you want it to make it sound a little bit lazy or a little bit rushed. You can just go up or down 2 or 3% just to give it a bit more of an interesting feel. Whereas in this case, I'm just going to leave it on 0. We've also got these buttons here, which are just to quickly either double or half the note length. So if I press this ×2, it'll go from an eighth note to a quarter note to a half, whereas we can half it here, making it even quicker. We've also got this smoothing button here, but I'll talk about that later because that's in relation to the modulation. Now I want this to be on a 16th note because the line itself are all 16th notes, and I want it to be nice and quick to kind of match the feel of it, and it will help thicken it up nice and easily. So just turn it on and it now sounds like this. So really quickly, it's just made it sound a bit bigger and a bit more full. Next over here we have the character, and in here we have the clip threshold. And this is used to actually introduce some saturation and a bit of distortion into the actual delay itself. So I'm just going to isolate the wet signal. I'm going to drop that out completely. I'm just going to start bringing this in so you can hear it. So you can hear around here, it started to become fairly obvious with the saturation. And it's very, very forward all the way down. So the lower you have this, the more saturation there will be, and the more obvious it will become. I'm not really sure why it goes above 0, because that doesn't really do anything unless you're going to have a really, really loud signal. But certainly in this case, especially on MIDI, just when you drop it down, it will start to introduce it. And when you have started to introduce it, it's just a case of finding the right blend between your wet and dry signal. So you don't want it really obvious, you don't want it really crunchy, unless that's obviously the sound you're going for, that's fine. But for this I want it to be a little bit softer, so I'm probably just going to leave it around 8. A bit more. Just so it's there subtly, but it's still adding a little bit of colour to it. Next we have the spread, and this is to change the width of the effect in the stereo field, but if it's a mono signal it won't actually do anything. Next here we have 2 different tape head modes, and these will emulate different tape head positions, so it just sounds slightly different. Diffuse sounds a little bit crunchier, and I think this actually has a bit more character to it, so I might actually leave that one on. I'm just going to drop the wet down a bit as well. Actually, I'm not liking that blend, but you can just hear those subtle differences in between the two, so it just depends on what sound you're trying to achieve. Next we have the low and the high cut. So again, this is quite a common thing to have on a lot of plugins. So here we can change the cuts from the high end and the low end of the delay signal itself. So here we can just remove some of the low end, maybe some of the highs as well. This will help it sound a little bit less muddy, and this can make it sound a little bit less harsh. Again, depends what you're working with and about finding the right balance. So you can use a setting like this to help bring out some of that high end. Maybe your track's lacking some high end, it's very bass heavy. Remove all the low end, focus on the high to help bring it out a little bit more and have more of an even balance. And then again, balance it with the dry. Next we have the feedback, and this will determine how much feedback's actually going through the delay. If it's on a lower setting, it'll only go through a few times and it will die out relatively quickly. Whereas if it's all the way up to 100%, we can actually go up to about 600% on this. But if it's on 100% or higher, it will infinitely feedback, and it sounds horrendous. Just never ending, and it gets louder and louder and louder. So I always keep this nice and low, depending on what you're working with, of course, but around 10 to 20 works fine, especially for something like this. And here we have freeze. This is quite interesting, as it will capture the current delay signal for whatever's happening. So if I just hit play and press freeze, you hear it's just captured that one bit of delay. And it won't go away until you turn it off again. Even I've stopped the source, but it's still going. You have to turn it off again. If I'm honest, I'm not really sure what the use of this is. I've never used it. I can't fathom an opportunity where I would actually use that or find it helpful, but it's there if you want it. And next down here is modulation. On the left side we have the LFO, so we have the LFO rate and the intensity. So I'll show you what they do. I'm just going to whack the intensity all the way up and start to bring in the LFO rate. This will be how much the low frequency will oscillate, creating an interesting effect. Of course, on this much intensity at this high of a level, it's not really a viable choice to use in a song. Maybe sound design or Foley or something like that, I'm sure. But this is mainly used because it's a simulation for a vintage tape echo, and these kind of irregularities would happen. So if you just have it on a small amount, ever so slightly there, it makes it sound a bit more realistic of the vintage sound it's trying to emulate. And similarly with the flutter rate. Again, I'll show you what that does by doing a similar method, all the way up, and start to bring it in. So the flutter simulates speed irregularities from the tape transporters, again emulating that vintage sound. Again, on 100% it's a bit extreme, so just drop that down and drop this down as well, and just find a decent balance between the two. To try and make it essentially sound not perfect. If that's the sound you're after, this does absolutely fine, just as a very straightforward delay. But using these things, these modulations and the character settings, will help it sound more vintage. Okay, so now we've got a decent setting for modulation. I can also show you what smoothing does. So in fact, again, I'm going to whack these right up again for the LFO to show you what I mean. So I'm going to drop the smoothing down and you'll see quite quickly what it was doing. It was quite literally smoothing and evening out the LFO, and it does the same thing for the flutter rate. So if we just drop that back to what we had, it was about 20% and 30 or so. We'll increase the smoothing on this a little bit. It just makes it sound a bit It's a bit easier on the ear. It's not quite as aggressive or abrasive, so we can just bring that back in. And now that we've got a decent setting, we can bring the dry signal back in and try and play around with it a little bit to find exactly what we're after. Okay, so I've just played around with the deviation a little bit. I've put it off time a little so it sounds a little lazier, it's a bit freer, it's quite nice. I've increased the feedback a little bit so we're getting a bit more delay through. Lowered the clip hold threshold to make the saturation come through a little more. Got rid of some of that high end because it was starting to sound a little bit aggressive like that, a little abrasive. And just dropped the wet signal down a little bit more so we have more of the dry coming through. So by using a combination of all of these, you can get some really cool and really interesting sounds, especially when working with the modulation. It's so good on lead sounds like lead guitars, lead synths, it's even good on pads, and it's particularly good on vocals. It can create a really, really thick sound very quickly as well. So I hope you found this video useful, and if you have any questions, please leave a comment or contact me via my website. Thanks a lot for watching. Cheers.